cards. Basically, the multicolored cards of this format are like the multicolored cards in past formats. They're all pretty sweet, I'm not gonna lie. So Flare Drone. If you're in black-red in limited, the black-red is a very aggressive devoid shell. Well, this so black-red fits, like, it's a good aggressive, it's the aggressive deck. Well, what do you get for 3 mana? A 3/1 first strike. Boom, aggressive. Whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield, they lose a life. Boom, aggressive. Fits the shell perfectly. Very powerful limited card. Mind Melter. 3 mana. 2/2 unblockable. Okay, that's quite relevant. And target opponent exiles a card from his or hand. So late game is not as powerful as Flare Drone, but Mind Melter is certainly a very, very good limited card. Boom, done. Void Grafter. 3 mana. Hey, look, 2 power. Hey, look, 3+ toughness. Again. Devoid, flash, enters the battlefield, another creature control gains hexproof. I love these effects. I just love these effects. I love these sort of tricky creatures that protect your other creatures. Unfortunately, it's green. So you're going to be sad if you're playing green, I think. Not as sad, but you're still going to be sad. But I think the card is quite good. Mind Melter, you can only activate the ability if it was a sorcery. On to Ailey Eternal Pilgrim. Card is busted. So apart from it being a 2 mana 2/3 with Death Touch, you can sack a creature, gain life, or sacrifice another creature and Vindicate. But yeah, card's super good. Yeah, you have to commit to being black-white, and it's not an ally because she's all like, "Sup, Eldrazi, I'ma be your bro or chick." That's what she does. Baloth Null, 6 mana 4/5. Okay, that's a little bit overcosted for the 4/5 that we want in this format. But when it enters the battlefield, return 2 creature or up 2 from your graveyard to your hand. That effect is actually pretty powerful. It's a fine creature to play, I would argue, and I'm a fan of this card. Cliffhaven Vampire. 4 mana, 2/4, 2 power, 4 toughness. With flying, that whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. And it's an ally. So this fits exactly into the black-white allies theme. If you're in it, you can really start dinging people a little bit at a time. I think it's fine. I enjoyed playing the black-white deck more than I probably should. And now it's reached the point where you can't really draft it effectively. But I think it's a very fine card and definitely attacks very well. Now this is a card that I'm thinking about. So Jiraga Auxiliary. It's a 3 mana 2/3. Hey look, 2/3 again. Do I have to say it time? 6 mana support 2. It's a pretty fantastic mana sink, but 6 mana to support 2. I really don't think, like, I think support is all incredibly overcosted. It's a great mana sink, and it's a fine creature to play. So this is probably better than I expect, but I don't expect it to be very high. Next we have Jorian Ruin Diver. That's another 2/3. But when you cast a second spell, each turn draw a card. So you get really rewarded for like playing it and then playing a 1 mana spell. However, there are very few 1 mana spells in blue-red in this set. There's a lot of 2 mana spells, so maybe you cast this on turn 5 and then play a 2 mana spell and then draw a card. If you're able to get the card draw right away, this card is absurd. But even still, it's definitely a card I would want to play if I end up in those colors. Mina Undead Wildborn, 4 mana 4/4. Great. Very efficiently costed. You can play an additional land. Also great. And you can return a land you control, target creature gains trample. That's a little bit less good. But since you can play an additional land, the downside is kind of undone. So this card, again, if you're in green and red, very powerful. You'll notice a recurring theme that the multicolor cards are pretty strong. Another 2/3 for 3. What a twist. Reflector Mage. When it enters the battlefield, you return, you You basically mana war, and that creature's owner can't cast spells with the same name until your next turn. Card is real sweet. This is exactly the type of creature I love with a passion, because I love mana war effects in limited, and this is a mana war effect that's even better because it stalls them a turn. So if it's the late game, they play a giant threat, you play this, bounce it, and then they have to wait an extra turn. Super sweet. Love this card. Relentless Hunter. 3 mana, 3/3. Okay. Very well costed for creatures in this format. And can get +1/+1 and trample. So they become a 4/4. Basically, like, you play this on turn 3 and turn 4 you attack as a 4/4. Very efficient. If you're in green-red, this is a very good attacker. And as I said, multicolored cards are all pretty good. Storm Chaser Mage. So it's like a cross between, like, what, Weed Dragonauts and Monastery Swiftspear. So this card's either absurd or just okay. The fact he only costs 2 is pretty good, because it helps with your casting 2 spells. It helps with Surge, where blue and red are the Surge colors, or the better Surge colors. So this is exactly the type of creature you want in that deck. And lastly, Weapons Trainer. So 2 mana, 3/2, and other creatures you control get +1/+0 as long as you control an equipment. Why can't there be a good equipment? That's the one thing that we're missing. Speaking of artifacts/equipments, the artifacts we have are Bone Saw. Yeah, it costs 0 to play, 1 to equip, but it's just +1/+0. This is probably as good as you're gonna get. Like, it's no Leonin Scimitar, but it might be okay. Captain's Call is actually pretty powerful, because it turns every creature into attacking into, like, half of a Hero of Bladehold without the Battlecry trigger, but it at least puts an ally, it puts it into attacking. This is probably the best equipment you're gonna find. Chitinous Cloak is okay. If you have a giant creature, Chitinous Cloak is pretty good. +2/+2 and Menace is a good combo. 3 to play, 3 to equip is a little bit on the rough side, I will say. But this card can end games. It's no Whisper Silk Cloak, but it's still a very powerful effect. Hedron Crawler is my buddy. I want to cast this card a bunch. Like, this is exactly the type of way to get colorless fixing. I think they did a great job with it. I think this card's Chitin, English hard. But Hedron Crawler, super sweet. Definitely good. Seer's Lantern, another way to get colorless mana, and 2 colorless tap to scry 1. This card's certainly not bad. Certainly gonna play it. Stoneforge Masterwork. 1 to play, 2 to equip, gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. So it's like coat of arms on 1 creature. Chitin. Thank you guys. I learned English. Considering the number of cards I've said incorrectly, I think my ratio is pretty fine. So it's probably going to be allies, and this can turn 1 small creature into a giant threat. Okay, that's pretty cool. This is also a pretty good one, but look, it's at rare. Look at this other one. It's at rare. Not many good ones. And then the last equipment, Strider Harness. 3 mana, but only 1 to equip. Okay, for +1/+1 and haste. So the upfront cost is pretty high, but once it's in play, you have some powerful effects. But I'm still not a fan of it. And now on to non-devoid colorless cards, because there's a fair bit of them. Start with Deceiver of Not Foam, which is how I read it the very first time. Deceiver of Form. 7 mana, 8/8. Okay, it's huge. At the beginning of combat, reveal the top card of your library. If a creature card is revealed, you may have creatures you control other than it become copies of that card until end of turn. And then you may put that card on the bottom of your library. So this card's real good. If you're talking about giant Eldrazi, this fits the bill. It's huge. you can take it, if you reveal a land, you can put the land on the bottom if you don't want it, because you can put the card on the bottom of your library whether or not it's a creature. So, card is sweet. Card is real sweet. It's a rare, of course, but Eldrazi Mimic, Bear with upside. It's not a very powerful upside, but if you have it in play and you cast a giant Eldrazi and you get to have a 2-mana 6/6 or 2-mana 5/5 attacking, that can be pretty sweet. Oh my god, Endbringer is so good. I don't know. Do I have to say more? Endbringer is so good. 6-mana 5/5. Body is great. And it untaps during each other player's untap step. And it can either ping or make a creature unable to attack or block, or draw a card. Card is real sweet. Build around the colorless cost, but card is real good. Endbringer just does all the things. So good. Kozilek, the Great Distortion. So now, if you're behind and you cast an Ulamog, you just win. If you cast a Kozilek and you're behind, you get to draw a bunch of cards, but maybe he's not as good. Given the double colorless cost makes you have to get like a Kozilek's channel or something like that to help make that a possibility. But if you ever cast Kozilek, yeah, the opponent's probably in some trouble. If you're way behind on board, you probably just die, but Kozilek's still super sweet. I just want to play him. Kozilek's Pathfinder. 6-mana 5/5. So we've already seen that there exist a few 6-mana 5/5s already. But target creature can't block it? Ugh. Ugh, that's disgusting. I think this card can have some upside. I don't want to play too many copies of it, but it's certainly a very fine, limited playable card. Again, not very good against the green tokens that are going wide, but... Matter Reshaper. Hey, look, it's a Piloted Shredder from Hearthstone. So 3-mana 3/2. Okay, so it's going to trade with everything. But when it dies, reveal the top card of your library. You may put that card into the battlefield as a permanent with CMC 3 or less. Okay. Probably just play this. The fact it costs 2 and 1 colorless is a little bit hard, but I think it's still a very fine limited playable. Oh my god, Reality Smasher. This is my favorite card in the set. Just hands down, Reality Smasher is absurd. I think it's going to be super standard playable once we get past all the insane mana fixing. It's a 5-mana 5/5 Trample Haste that whenever it becomes a target of a spell or ability, counter it unless they discard a card. This card is absurd. I just expect myself to smash so many people's faces with this card. So sweet. Holy cow. I love Reality Smasher. So much. So much. Okay, can I hype this card anymore? I'm gonna hype this card some more. Spatial Contortion. It's nameless inversion. Instead of costing black, it costs colorless. Nameless inversion was sweet. If you have the ability to have easy colorless mana, this card is gonna be great because -3 is huge because it kills everything early in the game. And at worst, it's a pump spell for your own creature. Oh my god, this card is super powerful. Thought Not Seer, another very powerful... I think this card's definitely constructed playable. But it's a 4-mana 4/4. Great. Efficiently costed for limited. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card and exile it. Oh my god, that's great and limited. And then when it leaves the battlefield, they just draw a card. So even if you get rid of the card, it's like a Vendilion Clique of sorts. The card stays gone, and it exiles it, so you can process it. Card is really good. Yeah, you need colorless mana, but that's the thing. Walker of the Wastes. 5-mana 4/4. Okay, so again, we see another 5-mana 4/4. So you notice 3-mana 2/3s and 5-mana 4/4s. I mentioned that cutoff. I'm going to keep iterating it. Keep that in mind when you're playing when you're playing this format. Yeah, it's trample. And gets +1/+1 for each land you control named Wastes. You're probably not going to get that many Wastes, and you don't want to play too many of them anyway, because you're going to play enough colored spells, so not impressed by it. Warden of Geometries. 4-mana, 2/3 with Vigilance that taps to add colorless. Very fine ramp creature, gonna play it basically every time. And lastly, Warping Whale, which is the ultimate sideboard card for constructed, but for limited, Exile a creature with power or toughness 1 or less. Okay, there's... I mean, this card is great with, uh, what is it called? I've already mentioned it like 6 times. The blue mana -6/-0 spell. Counter a sorcery. Okay, that's great. And put a Scion. Yeah, the Scion's like the less relevant ability. But I think this card is completely fine for limited. It hits a lot of things. Now on to lands, which will be the end of this review. We get a cycle of uncommons that come into play tapped that add 2 colors. Okay. Corrupted Crossroads. Which one looks great in modern? Yeah. Corrupted Crossroads. Taps for colorless. Okay. Or pay 1 life, add 1 mana, spend only for Devoid. This is basically a blue-red-black card. It's basically how I count it. Crumbling Vestige is a card I like a lot. I think this is exactly a good design. Enters the battlefield tapped, but when it enters the battlefield, you add a mana of any color to your mana pool. So it basically comes into play untapped. Right? And then you can add colorless for it. So this is a great card if you're playing a whole bunch of Devoid or colorless cards. Hissing Quagmire, 2/3 with or 2/2 with Death Touch for 1 black-green. Very good. Holdout Settlement, another very good card if you're playing the strict Devoid deck, because it either adds colorless or turns a creature into a Bird's Paradise. Card is very good and definitely something you want to think about. Another cycle of the uncommons. Mirror Pool. I'm not sure what to think of Mirror Pool in limited. So it adds colorless. And then you can copy an instant or sorcery spell and choose new targets, or put a token as a copy of target creature. The second ability, or the last ability, is definitely the one that I think is going to be most relevant, because you have a mirror pool, you play a giant creature, and then you can untap and make a copy of it. So, that's a thing. I'm curious to see where it'll play out. Needle Spires is pretty powerful. 2/1 with Double Strike, though. Just trades with a whole bunch of 2/3s. Ruins of Oran Reef is cute if you're playing the colorless deck, but I'm not super impressed by it. Seagate Wreckage seems super sweet and limited. If you get into like a top deck war, like this card makes it's a reverse Library of Alexandria. I'm impressed. I like that card. More of the cycle, more of the cycle, more of the cycle. It's only 5 of them, so it's green, white, blue, black, red, green. Blue, white, and red, black, by the way. Unknown Shores, another perfect card if you're playing the colorless cards. So there's enough for them to go around. Wandering Fumarole, I can never pronounce this card. Card just dies to burn, but it's fine. It's a manland. Manlands are probably playable if you're in those colors. And we have Wastes, which we're just going to stick around and say, this art is the Wastes art. This Waste art sucks. Kozilek, Bismuth for life. Remember that you don't get unlimited Wastes to choose from. You are required to draft them or open them in your sealed pool. There are 2 of them, so you're twice as likely to open them as any other common, but you're not guaranteed to have Wastes in general. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I have finished my review. Whew. At this point, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. So if you guys have any questions about any of the cards, any interactions, or anything at all, I will be happy to answer them. Man. I forgot how draining this is. It was basically 1.5 hours of me talking nonstop, which is very different than when you're streaming regular Magic, because you're not talking nonstop, actively, continuously. I'm still talking. What is wrong with me? If you guys don't have questions, then I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a draft or not. I might not do a draft. I think I'm losing my voice already, and I'm gonna take it easy for one day. I have to get up super early tomorrow, So that's probably where I'm going to end the stream. So what's my verdict of color ranking? That is a fantastic question. I think my color ranking is black, then red, then white and blue are kind of tied, but they're both like not bad, and then green. I think Wizards of the Coast really doesn't like green, but I think black is very good. I think black is very, very good. I think red is also very, very good, and black and red together are very, very, very good. Black and blue, blue and red are all like any pair of those three colors seems very strong. White seems like a good strong color, but you have to find a good pairing with it. So white red or white blue both are solid. White black, it's gonna be harder to get a very solid ally deck than you did before because the allies have less synergy with each other because Rally is no longer in the set. But that's where it is. Would